Hi guys, welcome back to Elephants in the Room. My name is Nicole. Hi. Sorry, I'm feeling a little off today. And yeah, we're going to talk about it, but I hope you guys had a good week. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about something that I'm going through that I feel like I've talked about in spurts. So I don't want to bore you guys, but today when I was trying to plan and prepare this episode, I felt super discouraged because like every idea that I could come up with, I just didn't feel connected to. I didn't feel passionate about. I didn't feel motivated to like talk about any of it. Like I was just having a really hard time creatively, and that's not necessarily something I have struggled with in the past. I feel like today was just one of those weird days where I just spent some time with God, spent some time researching, spent some time sitting, just trying to decide what it is that I wanted to talk about. And this just felt right, considering. So today I just want to talk about feeling unmotivated, unexcited, lost, detached from yourself, and sad. Yeah, I think that it's super, super hard to go through seasons and moments of this when you know what it feels like to feel motivated, to feel passionate, to feel really in tune with your emotions and with who you are. And so when you're not feeling that way, it can feel so weird. And doing something like this, sitting and talking to you guys on a podcast all about vulnerability, can make it feel even weirder. And so that's why, as much as I don't want to bore you guys with this is something I'm very much going through and very much struggling with. And I can't fake it with you guys. So I figured let's just talk about it together. I don't think it's very often that we like to admit that we feel unmotivated, unexcited, lost, and detached from ourselves. We don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable and it's sad. And I think the reason we struggle talking about it and like accepting it and living in it is that we don't like things when they're not resolved. Naturally, we want to resolve things. Like if there's anything that's left undone or unresolved and there's not a solution, we naturally as humans want to fix it. And so I think it is scary to accept this and walk in it because we want to fix it and we want a solution before we even air it out to ourselves or to people, because it can feel like you're so out of control and it can feel like you're a failure when you come out about something like this or accept something like this that you're going through without having a plan in place or a solution, if that makes sense. I think I just want to embrace the simple fact that we just do not have it all together all the time in life, and that's okay. It has been so humbling. I feel like my whole life has been so humbling. In so many ways, I've always felt like I knew something or I had something, and then life has a funny way of showing me that I don't know all that I thought I knew, and I don't have I haven't figured out life. And I think we want to figure things out. We want to figure life out because it makes us feel in control. It makes us feel stable. And so when we feel like we don't, it can just feel really overwhelming. That would be the best way to describe it. I think there's such a discomfort with feeling stuck, and just unsure. And like I said, naturally we want to solve things as humans. And so when there's not necessarily a tangible way to just solve it, not to say that there's not little things that we can do, which we're going to talk about towards the end, that can help us get back into feeling more motivated, more passionate, more connected to ourselves and our emotions. Even though there are ways to help, I think sometimes it's just the season we're in, and sometimes those things won't just fix it and they won't take it away. And so we're just going to talk about all of this and all that it encompasses. So I want to talk a little bit about maybe the complexities of what's going on deeper when we are feeling some of these ways. So when you're feeling unmotivated and unexcited, I think when we feel unmotivated or unexcited, the first thing that we assume and or attach to that feeling is, oh, I must just be lazy. If I feel unmotivated and unexcited about life, I must just be a lazy piece of crap. And I don't think anyone likes feeling lazy. It's not a good feeling. And I just want you guys to hear this. And also I'm speaking this to myself, but it's really not rooted in laziness. It's rooted in something deeper that's going on. Feeling lost and detached. When you don't know what to do next, when you feel disconnected from your emotions, your passions, and even yourself, you don't feel like you anymore. I kind of shared this in my last episode, but I think I've been feeling super detached from myself in a lot of ways. And I think it's rooted for sure for me in just being overwhelmed by certain emotions that I've had to shove away or push down, or knowing that there's these things that I emotionally need to deal with, but my plate is just too full and I don't have the capacity to deal with some of these things emotionally. So I just get overwhelmed and I just kind of shut down. Sadness. Sometimes we feel sadness that seems hard to explain. It's not a deep depression, but a low, lingering sadness that colors everything. It can feel heavy, draining, and disorienting. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way, but you just feel sad. Not particularly about anything. And it's not even like an intense sadness. It's just kind of this lingering sadness, and it just makes everything feel a little bit more dark and a little bit more gray, and just makes you not want to live each day to the fullest, I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird feeling, but I think that sadness, it's like it comes from, when we feel unmotivated and unexcited and detached from ourselves. I think it's kind of like the sadness is kind of just a feeling that kind of hovers over to replace that feeling of emptiness. Because we don't feel like we're fully ourselves, and we don't feel like we're fully living or walking in our potential or in gratitude or in just really being present in our lives. And I feel like being really present is the thing that can help us be the most grateful and have the most joy. So I think, yeah, that's a part of it. And on top of all of that, there is the external pressure that we feel in life to not be in a place that we're stuck. Like, we are told to keep moving, keep going, keep, doing all these things, which in a lot of ways I think is good. But I think when we're in that place of feeling unmotivated and sad and unexcited, I think we feel this pressure to solve it, to figure it out. And sometimes I just think it's not that simple. And I think I'm seeing that and learning that in my life. And it's interesting because I think what I've noticed is that when I am really overwhelmed with my own emotions or pain within me that I can't deal with, whether it's because I don't have the capacity to deal with it, or I'm dealing with something else, I'm in some other type of crisis, or it's something that's out of my control, and so I kind of have to shove it away and keep pressing on, is that it's so easy to just indulge and engage in everything other than ourselves and our lives and our emotions. Like, it's so easy to binge reality TV or sit and doom scroll for like 20 hours because you're like, you don't feel anything, and so you just, or whatever. Like, it's so easy to be invested in other people's drama or whatever. Like, just anything that's apart from yourself, it's so easy to engage in that because it's just a distraction, I think, from how we actually feel and what we're going through, and not really being able to deal with that, really be able to process that, and really even be able to accept it. And I think I've kind of been feeling in that weird place of like uneasy, unsettled, unmotivated, unpassionate place. And there's moments I start to feel it, but it's just, I feel like I've been in a really dry season. If I could explain that, like, dry season in regards to passions and desires. And I'm a very passionate person. I don't know if you guys can tell. Obviously, this episode makes me seem like I'm not, but I am a hard-headed, passionate person. And so when I don't feel that way, it scares me. And it's uncomfortable. And can be really sad. And I think that the things that we often do in attempts to make ourselves feel better, like distract and numb ourselves with whatever it is, social media, TV, whatever you choose to do to try to distract yourself from what's going on and the deeper feeling and thing that you can't deal with because it's so hard and overwhelming. It usually just makes us feel worse. And it usually just sends us into a deeper place of lack of motivation and feeling uninspired and feeling disconnected from ourselves because we're not pouring into ourselves. We're not checking in with ourselves. We're not really in touch with our emotions. And that can make it so much worse. And I think that's part of something that I'm realizing, and something that I really see that I need to do is I need to disconnect from things that don't actually matter and engage in things that will produce fruit in my heart and that will inspire me. And so, like, social media, scrolling on TikTok, that's not gonna necessarily inspire me. Doom scrolling isn't something that's inspiring. Sitting and not moving my body and staying in the same routine or whatever it may be is not going to spark creativity. I think it's so important to understand that as scary as our emotions are, and as scary it is to sometimes connect with ourselves in these times, because usually it's something deeper going on, it's what we need. And so it's funny because before I recorded this episode, or started recording, I was spending some time reading the Bible, and I haven't really opened up about this. I mean, I have a little bit, but I've been super struggling in my relationship with God the last little while, and have just felt so disconnected from Him. And even when I read and even when I pray, I've definitely just felt such a lack of His presence. And I know that's not a fault of Him. And I know that we're not always going to feel God, feel His presence. And I also know that when I'm going through really hard things and when I am emotionally overwhelmed, it's super easy for me to disconnect from God, because I know that if I'm really walking with God, and that if I'm really walking in a close relationship with Him and having communication with Him, that I have to be really honest with myself, really honest with Him. And I really have to face and walk through things that I may not want to. And so I think when things get heavy and when life gets overwhelming, it is easy for me to kind of just backpedal and not engage with myself and my emotions, which obviously then results in affecting my relationship with God. But I also think my relationship with God has changed so much just since getting older. Like, when I first met the Lord, like, I was in a honeymoon phase and was super on fire for Him. And so I think as we grow and we evolve and we change, things just change. Our perspective on life changes and things start to feel less intense, like things kind of level out. And so I think that's happened in my relationship with God, which has been discouraging in a way, but also not a reflection of Him. But I definitely think that my relationship with God and how it's felt, it just doesn't feel the same as it used to, And I think that's part of all of this too, is I think feeling uninspired and unmotivated and unexcited is that oftentimes we believe and we think that certain things will fulfill us, that certain things will be a certain way. We have expectations for the way that things will make us feel and the way that people will make us feel. And when we go through the honeymoon phase, it's amazing and exciting and all the things. And then once you get out of that honeymoon phase, you realize that even the things that brought you the most joy and the things you were most excited about aren't as exciting as they were, And so I think going through the honeymoon phase with my relationship with God, with myself, my life, with this podcast, like all these different things, it can feel very lifeless on the other end. And you can romanticize and fantasize about what it used to be, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that that was better. I think it's so important when we're going through these things to talk about them. And it's funny because I'm talking with you guys, which is awesome and therapeutic and healing. And I love you guys. And I think I sometimes fear talking about this because it's a lot harder to be open about things that are like open wounds, and also there's so many layers to all of this that I obviously can't share with you guys. So it's like I can connect and share with you guys some of what I'm going through in hopes that you'll understand, relate, and feel connected and validated and safe and heard. But I obviously can't share the depths of all the things that are going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I think admitting that you feel lost and sad and detached isn't something we always need to fix. And I talked about disconnecting earlier, and it's funny because when I was trying to plan this episode, I was reading my Bible and then I was doing some research and I was just going back and forth and back and forth. And I remember just sitting there and just feeling so lifeless and feeling the Lord speak to me, disconnecting from things that don't matter. And also, I was reading, I believe it was in John 15, and it was about the Lord will cut off the branches that aren't producing fruit so that the branches that are producing fruit can produce more fruit. And so I think oftentimes we don't realize that the things that we fill our time with and the things that we do, they affect us and they can stunt our growth, because if we're not giving all that energy into the branches that are actually producing fruit and we're growing all this random fruit, but a lot of it's bad fruit, it can just take away from the fruitfulness of the tree and the good fruit. And so I think I felt very convicted of like, what do I need to give up in my life? What habits, what things do I need to step away from and walk away from to really create the space for what actually matters? And I've said this before and I've talked about this before, but I think the older I get in my life, the more I realize how important that is that when we're young, we just have the energy and the time to indulge in everything and be a part of everything and absorb everything. But sometimes it's just too much. And I feel that my capacity's gotten smaller over time. And I think also just in the emotional place I am in my life and what I'm going through, it's limited my emotional capacity because of what I'm dealing with. And so I'm really having to narrow down things and prioritize more things that matter. And that's hard to do. And so I felt convicted of like, Nicole, you need to give up some things. Like you need to write down a list of things. You need to, do a fast, maybe not a food, but like a cleanse of some sort. And so that's something that I just wanted to share. But I think it's hard because when we feel like this, there's such a pressure from society to be productive. And even though I think productivity is amazing, I think that productivity can also be used as a crutch, and it can actually pull us away from working through things that we need to work through. And oftentimes when we're unmotivated, sad, like all these different things, there's a root to that. And sometimes we actually just have to get to the root and uproot it and heal from it before we can change the outcome. Like, just be more productive. That's just snipping the surface. That's not getting underneath. Like, there's roots in all of this. And so I think there's a pressure that we feel. And I love this. I actually went to get my hair blown out the other day. And I said to my hairdresser, he's like, oh, like, do you have any plans for the day? And obviously, you guys know we just got back from tour and stuff. And so our bodies, we both got really sick. And so I've been resting a lot and taking it easy. And I was like, oh, no, like, he was like, oh, do you have anything planned for the rest of the day? And I was like, oh, honestly, like, I think I'm just going to rot and watch TV shows. I was like, I already filmed a podcast today and da-da-da-da-da. And he was like, I hate the word rot. And I was like, but he said, I hate the word rot. I don't like the term rot or it being used like that, because rotting is, think about a rotting fruit. Like, that's a fruit losing its life. And think about how gross rotting fruit is. He's like, you're resting. He's like, that's what you're doing. You're resting. And that was a really cool perspective, because I think oftentimes when we think of doing nothing, or we think of cutting out things, or being alone in a quiet space, we think that it's rotting, because we're not moving the needle forward. We're not being productive because we're not moving. So we think we're rotting. And he was like, resting. It's resting, because rotting is not the way to see it, because when we see it as rotting, it can, like, it changes our perspective in the way that we actually do it, because resting is actually a beautiful thing, and it's a healing thing, and it's part of producing good fruit. And so I love that his perspective of like, it's not rotting, it's resting. But it also made me think, what am I doing when I'm resting? Am I resting and doing things that are healing and good and self-soothing and self-care, or am I rotting? And I think there is a difference there. But yeah, I just think if you're feeling or relating to any of what I'm saying, I just want you to know you're not alone. And I think people do go through this, but I think it's just hard to identify. I think we can see a lot of the symptoms and things, but it's really hard to identify. So here's some ways I feel like we can all, you guys are joining me because I'm in this as we speak, things that we can kind of coexist with this lack of motivation, feeling uninspired, feeling sad, feeling detached from ourselves, without trying to just fix it. Sometimes it's not that simple. So the first thing is small wins. Take tiny steps, set small, manageable goals to slowly reconnect with your motivation, even if it's just getting out of bed or going for a walk. So something I've been finding that has really been helping me feel a little bit more engaged and connected with myself is right in the morning when I wake up, I tidy up around the house. So if there's any dishes, clean them, fold up the blankets, just little stuff like that I would normally do here and there, but not specifically right when I wake up. And sometimes I would just kind of leave it. And so just the simple act of waking up and tidying everything up before I start my day and I make my matcha and I make my breakfast, it gives me like a sense of confidence for the day, and kind of it helps me to feel like peace of mind. It's weird because they always say like clean spaces make us feel better, but they really do. So that's something that has kind of been helping me get like connected. The next thing we can do is routine. Find some structure, but don't be too hard on yourself if it falls apart. The goal is consistency, not perfection. I have failed at this time and time again in my life, is that sometimes I set routines or goals and they're so intense and so unmanageable long term. And so doing little things and sticking consistently with them is a huge win and can really help you gain confidence. But pick and choose things that are manageable and that are small. Start small and then you can obviously increase them. So like that's one of my little routines that I've been doing. And yeah, it's been helping me definitely a lot. The like little cleaning thing. And I've been trying to read 1 chapter a day. I sit by my fire and read. And obviously that helps me as well. Reconnect with yourself. Start checking in with your emotions. Ask yourself, how do I feel today? Even if the answer is nothing or sad, that's a start. You don't need to have all the answers yet. I think one of the best ways to reconnect with yourself, which I'm hypocritical for saying this because I haven't done it, because it feels a little overwhelming and heavy, but I know that it's good. And it's actually something my therapist recommended me to start doing like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't done it yet, is to start journaling, to start writing things down, to start writing my feelings, my emotions, what I desire, what I don't desire, all these different things. Like, start writing stuff down. And that's a really healthy way to connect with yourself and also express kind of what's internally going on if you feel like you can't talk to someone about it, or it feels too heavy to even explain. Embrace uncertainty. Stop trying to fix everything. Let yourself sit with the discomfort of not having all the answers right now. Yeah, it's okay to not know. It's okay to not know what you want to do with your life, who you want to be. It's okay to not know whether to go right or left in a certain situation. You're trying to make a decision, a big life decision about a relationship or about a job or about whatever it may be, career, anything. You're faced with a big decision, and it can feel really overwhelming. And oftentimes we're just not ready to make a decision yet. And we kind of feel the anticipation around these decisions and around these things that we should do. And it can feel very heavy. And so I think just letting yourself sit with the discomfort and knowing, hey, you know what? I don't know right now what I'm going to do with this or with that, or where I want to be, or how I want to do this, how I want to, whatever. And that's okay. And I don't need to fix it. I don't need to force myself. I am going to allow myself to sit with it, as uncomfortable as it is, and trust that in the right time, I'll know. And in the right time, I will feel motivated and in tune and all these things again if I put in the work. I think overall, I just want you guys to see that I do not have it figured out. And in all the years of therapy that I've been in, and the many different walks of life that I've lived, if I've learned anything, it's that you change so much. Your life, your perspective on life changes so much. Who you are changes so much. And I think I'm just changing a lot, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm facing a lot. And I'm entering like a new level of self-love that I haven't had in the past. I think when I first started my therapy journey, I started learning how to love myself. And I think in a lot of ways I've carried that on, but in a lot of ways I've fallen back into the space of lack of love for me, and just learning how to trust myself, to love myself, and to be comfortable within my own body and mind, even when they're not at their 100%. And I think that's, something that's hard to do for all of us, is that there are going to be seasons of our lives when we feel like our best selves, when we have things in line, when our career feels in line, when we are healthy and our skin looks good and our bodies look good and we're doing all the things and we feel the best, and whatever, our relationships look the best, and all these things. Like, there's gonna be times in our lives where we feel like we're crushing it, we're living out our dreams, we're healthy, we're happy, we're in good situations. There's gonna be times when you feel like your best self, and to be your best self, quote, and be in a good space, it takes a lot of work, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's very hard. And so in those seasons, it can be so thrilling and so easy to love ourselves because we're so proud of ourselves for all the work we've put in, for where we are, for how our life looks. And so I think that is so important and amazing, but also in seasons of our life when we're not maybe our best self, we don't feel like we have it all together. We don't feel the prettiest we've ever felt. We've gained more weight than we have in the past. We're not making as much money. Our career's not in as good of a place. Our relationships are whatever, like not where they're at with family or friends or your partner. And it can be really hard to love yourself when your life's not going the way that you know it could, or you're comparing yourself to who you were when you were your best self, right? And so it's like loving yourself in the moments when you don't have it all figured out, and when you're struggling, and when you're maybe doing things you know you shouldn't, and when you're maybe not taking care of yourself the best that you can. Having love for yourself is so much harder in those moments. And I think the reason that it's important to have that is not to say that we need to enable ourselves. And, like we should love ourselves in a healthy way that pushes us to be better. But I compare this in the same way I talk about God and in my opinion, the difference between religion and relationship with the Lord is that religion stems out of a place of fear and condemnation, and relationship stems out of a place of love. And so I think when we beat ourselves up when we're already down, we're not going to get up for the right reasons. We're going to get up out of shame and guilt and fear. We're just going to push on and press through, not actually dealing with what's underneath. Not actually doing it for the right reasons, doing it because we're guilty, we're shameful, we feel like crap about ourselves. But when we can go to our place and when we can go to ourselves out of a place of love and say, hey, I love you, I want more for you. Like how I feel like God does when we fail him and when we sin. I love you and I want more for you. And I'm here when you need me. Then oftentimes we're so taken back by his love that we actually want to do things for the right reasons because we trust him, because we want more. And so I think when we approach ourselves with that love and grace, it takes the fire off, the burning, like, you got to do it, you got to do it, you got to figure it out. And it's just like, hey, I love you and I'm here. And I feel like that actually allows yourself the grace and the space to get up and be able to make changes and feel better. But I feel like it has to be rooted in a place of love and not fear. And love is wanting better for yourself and wanting, good fruits, and fear is being driven by guilt and shame and caving to society standards, what we think we should be and what we think we should look like. And it's all very messy and complicated. But if you feel confused and lost and scared and unmotivated and unexcited, I just want you to know you're not alone, and I love you so much. I think this life is so confusing at times, and there's so many different experiences that we all go through, but I think we relate oftentimes more than we realize on these things. So I love you guys so much. If you guys would like to support this podcast, you guys know you can share it with a friend, share it on your story, share the clips, leave a comment, rate the podcast. That helps me a ton if you guys leave a rating. Follow me on Elephants in the Room, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's all of them. I love you guys so much. I'll close this out. I will close this episode out by saying, what elephants are in your room? My name is Nicole, and I will talk to you guys next week.